rookie teams, even if you have more experience in the other sort of offline circuits of the region. So that is very much going to be tested today, but more importantly, we are going to get to retest, as it were, the new incarnation of Mega.
That's right, because as you sort of already mentioned as well, a team of rookies on one side, some rookies on the other side, but otherwise returning veterans, and right at the spear front of that is going to be Apudo, who is one of the veterans of the Pacific scene.
I'm just excited to see Apudo back in action. I don't know about you. And it is very much in action. Same positioning as we saw out of CKM, actually, in the match we just saw. Just kind of sitting off to the side, trying to remain untouched. Does take some chunks, but he is going to be just fine. It's the flank attempt from Blue. Going to get shut down. And with that, Mega have the numerical advantage, which they then press as they move on to the point itself as it unlocks. And
look at the patience there as well from Apudo. You don't simply flank this man, he will take you down, but that Mega already getting the cap. LogitechG ABANG kind of failing to find footing so far on this cap so far. They're on the outskirts, but being on the outskirts means you're not on the cap, and that means Mega are collecting percentage points.
And I mean, as much as they only had 5 members, you can respect that they didn't want to take a fight. They also didn't really do anything to contest that that cap. Sage and God, though, going down, and Apudo pulled off the edge, unfortunately, by the Holt. That's going to be the leg up that ABANG need to get in on top of this. NZNR trades back a couple off the back end of it, but it's all for naught as the cap goes back the way of ABANG.
Does slow down things a little bit for ABANG, as Mega are going to be able to just slightly reinforce a little bit quicker here, although that will only come into effect if they can get onto this next fight with reasonable speed. Both teams have want to fight, both teams have ultimates coming into play. Apudo's got a big one, and he's got a big job to do.
It's going to be with the tactical visor as well. Getting right onto the point, ABANG need to do something about this. They need to get aggressive. They need to be willing to go in and fight for that ground. Because right now, they're just letting it go over to Mega. Gone. There it is. Doesn't matter that you pass into the Iris, Oyo. You need to get onto the point, and you need to start taking the fight. Yeah. And they just kind of do nothing. They're just sitting off in this corner, trying to trade blows as best as they can. But the game isn't about trading blows. The game is about getting that cap point.
You certainly don't want to be trading blows with either NZNR or Apudo so far, yet either. For a team like Mega, Apudo just kind of sits in his perch, gets the sight lines that he desires and shoots them down long range, exactly how he wants it. And ABANG with a team that they do have here, very difficult to challenge Apudo. No one on this team has the dive pressure to really challenge Apudo outside of Blue, and we've already seen what that looks like.
Ultimate coming out from one, trying to wrap it around the side, looking for something.
He's running out of time, to be honest.
Excuse me. If I timed that,
you're allergic to bad tires.
If I timed that with the explosion, that would have been sick. But unfortunately, despite shutting down the tire, Mega are still finding themselves lacking for members. Blue especially catching 2 with that pulse bomb. Apudo had committed that tactic visor as well. ABANG, they seem to sometimes lack a bit of decisiveness, lack a willingness to fight at crucial times. But when they do choose to fight, they are getting good wins.
They are able to find a lot more pressure now, with also one swapping onto the soldier himself. Now they've got more of that long-range pressure. Challenge Apudo directly. Apudo says, I'm not interested in that challenge. He's going to swap onto the Genji, and now it's Apudo going to be stretching out his hero pool.
There's a very aggressive transcendence by Yut to try and get his team into the thick of things, but unfortunately it doesn't pay off as they just backed right up, and suddenly Mega found themselves just walking into the kill box. They're not even fighting on the point here, ABANG. And that has costed them in the past, but this time Mega walked right into their trap.
This is going to be the dangerous space for Mega to play in now, because while they have changed over to a Genji, note that a dive composition against what ABANG is running is a fairly dangerous thing to attempt. You can get punished really hard here. Smilabelle and Narc can both do that. One healing pad as a soldier helix rocket. He can punish divers as well. Mega got to take this approach very carefully.
Man, Blue and NZNR are just scrapping, just going toe-to-toe. Oyo going to go ahead and transcendence there, and it pays off. They're getting the kills once again in their favor. It's very late play from Apudo, but instant work. This is the man we know and love as he just carves them up. Just needs to get the last couple of shots here onto Smilable. Knows he can't take it one-on-one, backs up, but they get the point cap.
That's all they really need here, and Logitech ABANG are now going to be the ones changing up their lineups.
I don't know if they can get there.
Narc are the ones. Narc's going to go into a Winston, and you're right, maybe they can't get there.
They just barely touch the points that they do at least get overtime, but they don't have the manpower really to make much happen with it. One does get an impressive few with that, but the moment he commits that point, he is all but a dead man. It is too dangerous to get in the thick of it like that. And as he has to back off to the side, the rest of his teammates get picked off. Unfortunately, just not enough manpower at the end to keep presence on the point.
Also got to say as well, I'm going to mention this, but behind the scenes we did say this was potentially going to be a close one. 100 to 88, I say, has delivered on that promise so far. And if you didn't hear that promise before, I'm promising it right now. And hopefully both these teams
it doesn't really count if you promise it after the fact.
Well, I mean, it's still early days. We're one stage into Nepal, so let's see how long we can make this one last. Can we get a map 5 in the series, or is it a day full of sweet?
Do I have to stay up till 4 in the morning, or? But absolutely.
For the sake of Overwatch, you do.
Yeah. Who are we talking to before? Esports doesn't sleep. And apparently neither do I.
But coming into stage 2 now.
Yeah, onto good old Sanctum. It's not even Sanctum, it's Shrine. I always
You'll get there one.
Yeah. That's why I like to fall back to Shranktum. Because it's like, it's hard for me to be wrong until it turns out we're actually on Village.
It's hard for Pudo to be wrong here either.
It doesn't really, he doesn't really care what map they're on. Just between him and Loco, I mean, we used to see that so much between the two of them. The dive, when they get their mojo going, they just tear up teams.
Pudo just saw the opening right there. 2 players right off the bat. It really doesn't get easier than that for the man, and he's already on 57%, just a little bit behind Incident R for ABANG. I mean, so far, the other one's exploding.
Oyo having to dash forward to avoid Incident R on the flank, and now with that pulse bomb, Incident R can just kind of go fishing. And look at this, Mega are making sure that they are harassing ABANG at every step of the way. Not only does it mean ABANG take ages just to set up, does get eaten. It also means that they risk losing members before the fight, which is exactly what happens, as now Apudo with the Dragon Blade is just going to do what Apudo do and carve the team up once again. The gong to sound, and that is 2 clean sweeps in a row for the Mega Squad.
Now, the gong is an omen for the coming of Apudo, and ABANG are going to need to learn the sound of that one. Target selection prime as well. Apudo Dragon Blade straight on top of Oyo as soon as the coalescence from his Moira came down. He talked about how much he wanted to play Moira. Now he's going to have to go back to Zen.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, One trying to get in with this EMP, struggling to find the angle for it. The sound barrier out now for Mega. This is where you want to commit it. Nice catch as they instantly get Yut. No Transcendence to save him. This is a scrappy fight. They do get Apudo, but there's still a few members of Mega. Losing Loco may be just enough, but Incident R still in it means that they are not quite done yet. No one here to top off Narc's health total. Smileable does remech. Unfortunately, Narc does go down, but it looks like it may have just been enough for ABANG.
78% and still ticking right now. Mega Esports collecting those percentage points. LogitechG ABANG so far collecting a bunch of deaths, but they need to find an opening. Apudo nearly onto that next Dragon Blade. Yut already onto that Transcendence, and now another kill.
Oh, but they catch Yut once again despite having the Transcendence available. And now Rocket just kind of stuck in the kill box. They are going to get it all the way up to that 99 by the looks of things. Even as Apudo commits this Dragon Blade, it's not enough. And I think they may just be able to keep it tighter here. LogitechG ABANG will get the point count back in their favor as it gets all the way up to 99, but that does mean Mega are really only 1 fight win away from securing this.
A clutch kill on Yut, like you sort of mentioned, they're denying the Transcendence. You almost got to think, unless he got hacked, unless he got EMP'd, which the EMP wasn't there, that's kind of a little bit poor from the player. Yeah. Now the Transcendence comes on through. This could be a big one.
Yeah, he's not going to let that happen a 3rd time. He commits it very quick, very early in the fight, very decisively. Sage and God looking to find a good angle for the self-destruct to try and zone ABANG off this point. Apudo trying to go to work as he does. They've got the ultimates here. They need to start committing them. There we go. Rocket with the sound barrier in to give them the legs in the fight. They need to be able to absorb this EMP, and indeed, so far they have. The kills are coming up the way of Mega, but the fight is not decisive just yet, as a few more start going back the way of ABANG. Now the self-destruct having to be committed more defensively than anything. And ZNR does rejoin the fray. They get Smileable's mech as well, and that could be the turnaround point now. Without that tank present, it should be easy to pick apart ABANG, but the rest of these members are just not done. So scrappy this team is.
ABANG are able to just kind of climb on back there. This is actually a huge victory for ABANG when you consider Mega only needed to win 1 fight. They kind of nearly got there. They nearly got the cap on over. The cap would have been the key thing they're looking for, but for ABANG, collecting percentage points, they're about to even this one up.
That's so rough for NZNR. That hack from One. So nicely timed, and that really delays the reset from Mega. Now the kill on Yut as well makes it even more painful. You consider as well how many ultimates Mega had at the start of the previous fight and how many they used, and now we see ABANG pulling out ahead as they round that same territory of only needing to win one fight.
We ended the last stage of Nepal on Sanctum 99, or rather 100 to 88. This time it's going to be even closer to that. 99 on both sides is what we're expecting. Apudo with another blade yet again.
Looking for it.
Get work done.
He's hacked. He doesn't have that same mobility. And that means, especially with that Transcendence there, he just can't get anything done. Loses his life for it. Great start here for LogitechG ABANG as now Sage and God, the next casualty. Blue throws the Pulse Bomb into the mix. Doesn't get anything for it. But the numerical advantage is there. Now if he can kill Yut, indeed he can. They should be able to get the lot of them. Indeed get all 6 and give that Gong a bang of their own. Not quite going to get the full at once, but they get the map. That is what counts the most, tying it up 1-1.
You got to be able to respect as well the kind of ability for a team to, what I would like to say is, and this is fairly accurate, but a reverse sweep on a control where you're 99 down and you have to get the full 100 to win. And that middle section, roughly between, what was it, 20% to about 60, 70%, that was a fight that went on for so long, so many waves of respawning players. It looked like Mega were going to clinch it back on through. It wasn't really the case. ABANG, they were able to hold on through. They collected so much percentage during that. And Mega, we're on the back foot ever since.
Unfortunately so, and that does mean we get the full 3 here as we go to neither Shrine nor Sanctum. Shrivelage. Oh no, we talked about that before. That's not right.
Oh, you're right. That's the bad.
Yeah, we should.
That's the one that you don't combine.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a good thing. But at any rate, opening skirmish, pretty stock standard so far. Apudo and Loco able to exert that usual pressure that's going to result in killing off those 2 tanks nice and early, which gives them all the breathing room they need to once again get on the point first.
It's 3 out of 3 so far for Mega that they collect the first fight win, an important fight win, the one that puts them further ahead. But for ABANG, they find ways to climb back in. So now it's about Mega tightening up those screws, making sure there's no leaky parts in the ship right now, because for ABANG, they've been able to connect on through. They've been able to sort of penetrate through Mega so far.
We also have to see One try and match Apudo's prestigious Genji play, and as it is, Apudo pulls the weight in this fight, and unfortunately One sort of yet to have the same effect, or indeed any effect.
One's trying to get back to Shrine.
That was almost poetic there, just like as I'm saying it, he just kills himself off the map.
Oh man, I do have to say though, this isn't so far a huge loss for ABANG.
No, really not.
Macro play, they are 35% down, but they are able to also match ultimates at least a little bit. Apudo about to get his blade, One's only 10% behind him. This next fight could be pretty big though, and here comes Apudo.
Yeah, he will have that Dragon Blade, and already they de-max Smileable, despite all those healers being right there, the Moira included. Does have the Coalescence, but One! Whoo! All at once as well has certainly proved his worth with that Dragon Blade. And off the back of it, Logitech ABANG are going to smack bang their way onto the point.
The only good news that Mega get to take away from that one is that they were able to save a bunch of ults here. Loco was the only one that used a Primal Rage. Everybody else managed to save that. But for ABANG, we already mentioned this, but where do they find the way to get into Mega? That was how they
look at that. Straight in, no hesitation. Rocket knows they have the ultimate advantage. Apudo looks to carve out the back line. Catches Oyo. Now just trying to find a little bit more. They pick One off. He's not going to be able to do the same magic this fight. And Smileable, yeah, definitely a goner. Nicely handled by Mega. They did use maybe a few more resources than they needed, especially that Transcendence at the end. It does effectively even up the ultimates, but it does put them ahead in point progress.
This is an important fight win for Mega, right? Because we go back to Shrine. This was the fight that they didn't win, and because they didn't win this exact same fight, they didn't win that stage. They didn't win that map. And so for ABANG, they need to be the ones consistently behind in progress, consistently behind in pacing, and Mega, they like to stay ahead.
Look at that, already just getting the presence on the point here, ABANG. Mega are the ones who now have to get in and fight this one out. They don't get in on time. Already, double from Smileable, nicely done. They do trade one back though, so that does make it relatively even in the fight. Yeah, Apudo and Loco are gonna have to do a lot of work, but it is Apudo, of course he can. They start carving up the tanks. Even as they lose their supports, they lose that sort of foundation. Apudo's still trying to do what work he can, but maybe just doesn't have enough left in the tank. Team all dead. Will just be happy to have charged up the Dragon Blade.
He is considering maybe blading here, and you could see the sort of contemplation in his mind as he was looking for potential targets, kind of meandering around the outside of that point, if you will. But now for Mega, it's about trying to get back in. They will lose the cap, at least for now. They shouldn't be losing it for long.
And Shin actually opted to use his sound barrier, I think, for that very reason. Now Apudo gets to go with the Dragon Blade. One gets
Blade on blade.
But it's one who dies, and Apudo who gets the work done. As they do go even relatively. Apudo barely alive, finally goes down. That coalescence out of OWC is the real swing point of this one. Despite getting the kills they needed, despite getting something done with that Dragon Blade, it's actually the tank line and the supports of LogitechG ABANG that keep it together for themselves.
And now you got to be a little bit concerned for Mega running out of time here, running out of percentage.
I don't think they get on
Somebody's got to catch it.
Someone's got to touch that point. Overtime's ticking down. No one's there. Oh, not quite able to get close enough, even as Loco was diving for it. And that is indeed how you kick it off with a bang.
Now you can't say it for 3 seasons. The rest of the year, you don't get it for the rest of the year.
I just can't say it ever. I just like by the end of the season, you're going to come to me with like how long I'm banned from saying that for. And it's going to be like, I'm allowed to say it when I'm 300 years old. It's the next time I'm allowed.
I'll read you out your sentence, but so far, I gotta say, like you kind of mentioned, this was gonna be a reasonably close one. It was close enough that even coming into the final fight, it was nearly impossible to tell who was gonna come out ahead. A lot of smiles on the faces of LogitechG ABANG right now because they knew how close that was. They felt how close it was when one pulled out the Dragon Blade, seemingly an equal timing with Apudo's own Dragon Blade. One goes down straight away. Apudo gets a nice start, but he doesn't quite stay alive long enough. Goes down to the coalescence. And the interesting thing about that, thematically even, is the fact that he spent a lot of the game hunting down OWC, shutting down coalescences, and then the one time it really mattered, unfortunately, he dies to one.
Yeah, exactly. You've also got to consider, right, this is now, I mean, of our matches today, right, this is now the first one where, first of all, it's been very, very difficult to call. I mean, even with the first one, you know, being between Talon and Chaos Theory. Thank you. You know, we still had our hunches about which way that was going to go, and it certainly lived up to that. It's kind of rough for Mega to come into this being the returning team, not picking off that win straight out the gate. You know, you want to be able to kind of set that same precedent. You know, you want it to be a mold that gets followed. You certainly don't want to have the rest of this week's matches play out and have it be that you're the only returning team of the 4 that doesn't secure out an easy, clean victory, even if they do secure one from here. So now the pressure is on for Mega to hit back and hit back hard.
Let's also remember something, though. For Mega, it is a returning team, but it is also a new roster. Compare this to what their roster was last season. It is a very different roster. Only a few members returning from there. And also for a team like ABANG, they are also a team that have played together for a little bit longer. Yes, as amateurs, but now coming to the professional stage, they come in with that pre-built-in synergy. They come in with a sort of freshness about them. And it also is, I guess, kind of refreshing to be reminded of the fact that yes, rookies are coming in, but no, you cannot underestimate them.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's what keeps Overwatch exciting at all times, right? I mean, that's something that even those teams like Blank that have just secured their 4-0, or even Talon that have secured their own 4-0, you know, all these other returning teams, some of the best teams in the world, even, you always have to consider the threat of new blood emerging. I mean, that is the entire point, really, of the sort of open division into Contenders, the entire path to pro concept. And it's really great to see that being realized in a team like ABANG. And you even see a bit of progression in that. Initially, they were a bit tentative. They weren't willing to commit to fights on the point. They were maybe being more hesitant than they should have been. Once we started to see the confidence get back in there, we really started to see what they were capable of when they were being decisive, when they were being aggressive, and when they were playing to the beat of their own drum, you know, pulling out the Moira, doing what they knew. They were really looking scary.
And that is an important point to make because you go back to the sort of pre-match interview with OWC. He mentioned, we do like to sort of experiment here. Triple tank's nice. Moira is good. I like Moira. But then he ends it, and he sort of starts and ends with a sentiment that, look, dive is our best, Dive is still probably the best composition anyway. When they run that, that's, you know, they're getting a lot more successes out of it. So Sanctum was difficult because they tried to go for the Junkrat versus Hog strategy. Didn't quite work out for them. Apudo kind of shredded them with his soldier, kind of just walking on through with the bullets hosing down, down range. But as soon as they kind of match each other dive for dive, it's a lot more competitive. Now, Mega got to go back to the drawing board just a little bit as we head into map number 2.
And they do get to pick it, Mega, and they are going to take it to Hollywood. So I'm interested to see how this one will go. I mean, it's a map we saw, you know, enough of across the 2 seasons of OPC that this team did play in, but it was never one that you would call them particularly consistent nor inconsistent on. It was just a map that they played sometimes.
And kind of in the same vein as Blank, though, coming into the first season of Contenders this year, it's kind of a clean slate, a blank slate, if you will, for all of these teams. Because they are, much like Blank, kind of coming in with a totally retooled roster. In fact, in many ways, this is a much more different roster in comparison to even what Blank are bringing on through. Yes, returning teams, but also returning teams that are very different to what we're used to. And I think, you know, past results are past results, and it's kind of difficult to relate them over. I'm also very interested to see how ABANG play this, because we have seen a little bit of Sombra out of them already. Do we see a little bit more in Hollywood?
I mean, even for the teams, by the way, whose rosters are still relatively the same. Again, actually, the concept still applies. Of past results are past results. We are now several patches and metas away from when we last saw a lot of these teams. There are also new maps in the mix. It's a different format, different way of picking them, restricted map pool. There are plenty enough differences such that it's not super relevant to refer back to a lot of that information. That being said, some of it does still become relevant, and certainly as we see a little bit more of each of these teams, that information will become more and more relevant as they kind of build a repertoire of what their current go-tos are in this meta, in this map pool. And by the time we do reach that playoffs with that top 8, we will actually have a bit of a body of things behind them. For now, it's just a little bit tentative, but you know, certainly it is completely fair to say that all of that considered, there's just no way to call Mega on Hollywood. They have picked it. They have opted to it. You've got to consider that there must be a reason for that. But there's no particular evidence either way that says, yes, this is a good map or this is an iffy map.
So I think what we can do, what we can actually say is, based on what we've seen on the poll and the fact that this was, you know, this is, I would like to say this is even probably the match of the day in terms of what we think is going to be a really entertaining match to watch in terms of closeness. Both teams very likely to be able to go to time bank here. It's kind of 2 scenarios, right? Either both teams will be capping out fully, we are going to time bank, or both teams are exceptionally good at defending, and neither team will have very much successes on attack. And it could go either way there. And we've sort of gotten glimpses of when both teams are doing really well. And look, Mega's ones are very obvious. Apudo's going off. He's doing extremely well. And for the ABANG side as well, they're shutting down Apudo. We're seeing, you know, one come out with the Dragon Blade, huge string of kills as well. They're able to find ways to win, and we kind of mentioned this in the poll. One of the talking points for me especially was the fact that even though Mega were kind of winning those opening fights, to getting those early leads, it seems like ABANG always finds a way to penetrate through, find an opening, find a gap, a weakness in Mega, and then sort of exploit that.
I suppose one of the big things that we will actually get to see now on Hollywood between these 2 teams is, compared to Control, there is a much harder definition of attack versus defense here. And if there is one thing that I think is fair to say about Mega, at least in some previous incarnations, is they have always had a bit of a chronic thing sometimes of just grinding to a halt a little bit on those offenses. And sometimes that is, I say sometimes, it is always one of those column A, column B situations where it is in one part their own offense, it is another part the defense of the other team. So I want to speak to that second half of that, because if we can see ABANG's defense here, if we can see how that plays out, then they can maybe start exploiting that same weakness if it does still exist. But certainly I'm curious to see how this team's defense plays out, because we haven't really seen it so far.
So the other question that I really have sort of burning at the tip of my tongue is, are we going to see some sort of change up from the Mega side of things in terms of strategy or composition, or even lineup? This is a team with a couple of extra members as well. But actually, you know, I think ABANG are the team with extra members. Either way, the point being here, so far we've only seen roughly pure dive out of Mega. The only difference is, does Apudo play Soldier or does he play Genji? So far, he's played a bit more Genji than Soldier. Now, on the opposite end of that is ABANG. We've sort of seen a couple of different strategies. They come out with the tanks, they come out with the Moira. They're a very Moira-focused team, like Owo has sort of mentioned here. They're more likely, from my perspective so far, to be running maybe something a little bit different on Hollywood, maybe a pure tank lineup for that A attack or defense that we've seen some teams run. How are Mega going to respond? What kind of adjustments are they going to make? Also, as a team now, one map behind.
Yeah. And that does suggest that maybe you do need to make some adjustments as well, potentially. It's one of those really tricky things because it's also a reality that, and I sort of mentioned this before, I kind of want to re-mention it for a different reason now. You do, after that first map, move from control over to hybrid, where the game changes quite significantly. And then you play a quite different sort of game across the next 3 maps where you're doing, your hybrid, your assault, your escort. And the reason for that is suddenly that more momentum-based gameplay becomes a real factor. That sort of macro momentum is always a factor across all of Overwatch in terms of, ult usage and things like that. When you get a defense going on control and you snowball it away, all that sort of stuff. But it behaves very differently on these sorts of maps. And one thing you do have to say, out of Mega at least, is they have spent the last year playing against some very good teams and learning a lot about how to conserve that momentum and create that momentum. And you have to consider that that could be the deciding factor between these 2 teams. It won't necessarily be, oh, this one had better offense, or this one had better defense. I wonder if it's just going to be a more macro distinction.
Well, this is the kind of team that Mega come in as, right? Because on one side, they have some very hardcore veterans, Apudo definitely at the top of that, who is, by the way, listed as a player and also as a coach as well for this team. And on the other hand, you have ABANG, who are coming in as a fresh rookie team, but a team that has also been playing together for some time in the amateur scene. And then on top of that, also some fresh rookies for the Mega side. So you're sort of, as you're sort of pointing out there, what is that experience coming in from Mega going to look like? How does that sort of mix into this team where you have, again, players that have a lot of very tenured veterans that are bringing in some newer players to try and mix into that? How are they going to look as a sort of newer team versus ABANG, who are a fully new team, but at the same time a team that has been together longer technically?
Yeah, it's a hard one to call, right? But I mean, certainly we're not going to be calling it just yet, because it does seem to be that we're having just a few technical difficulties in the Blizzard Esports Arena over in Taipei. So we're going to go to a quick break, and when we come on back, we will be back into the action between Mega and LogitechG ABANG.
Welcome back to Overwatch Contenders Pacific Season 1. We're about to head now back into our final match of the evening between Mega Esports and LogitechG ABANG, and hopefully the technical issues can be cleared up in time, because so far it's been a pretty good series and we want to see how Map 2 unravels.
I mean, I don't know about unravels. It sounds a bit ominous, but certainly yes.
Pretty ominous, yeah.
Yeah, I want to see.
Because I don't know how it's going to unravel. So
I mean, I don't know. Like, I just associate unravel with, like, I don't know, spiraling into a pit of depression or something. Like, my life is unraveling.
Okay.
I mean, personally, I would have said I would like to see how Map 2 plays out, but I mean, sure, like, it could unravel. The game could just break down into, I don't know, like Matrix-looking code or something. I don't know. That's
how I view the game. Anyway.
Yeah,
I don't know about
exactly.
anyone else, but
exactly.
I don't see anything else except code.
I don't even see the code anymore. I see blonde, brunette.
Back to the matter is, it is still so far 1 up in the series for LogitechG ABANG, and Mega's still trying to play a little bit of catch up right now, but it's, you know, as we sort of mentioned before the break, it's a little bit hard to call because it's unclear who exactly is going to come out on top of this game. Yeah. I'm personally expecting the possibility of a Map 5 in this series, and that wouldn't be very surprising at all if we got there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we had already sort of said it right from the start, but it is absolutely worth reiterating. This is a match that we really just can't call. I mean, you should never call any match before it starts, don't get me wrong, but like, there are too many questions, there are too many unknowns, and we've already seen in action now, these two teams are actually very evenly matched, at least on control. But without any further ado, we do have our technical issues resolved, and that does mean we do move on board into hybrid, where maybe we see if these teams are still very close, or maybe, as we suggested, this is where we start to see a bit of disparity, perhaps.
Maybe also looking for any potential adaptations from either side. LogitechG ABANG, we already know as a team that is not shy of experimenting, and the only sort of question mark here are the builders real? So far, one of them's not real, one of them might be.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been interesting, right? Like, you just see...
It's like, well, you're experimenting too far now. Let's slow things down a bit.
Just a bit less experimentation, all right? Like, yeah, let's do this, I agree. But I mean, the Torbjorn here on Hollywood is not at all unheard of. And indeed something we're actually quite familiar with in Pacific Overwatch.
But this is a composition now, and ABANG still kind of just choosing, like, do we want the Junkrat or a Sombra or what? This is also a very kind of snowball-based composition for the defense. Like, you need the time to collect the scrap, to distribute that armor. Also for Anna as a solo healer that Shin is playing right now, not the best solo healer, I have to say. So there's a reasonable chance that Mega kind of blitz through.
And you also do see that in the Sombra as well. You need time to get that going, to get those EMPs available. Mega, on the other hand, had their classic explosive dive, and it's either going to go off or it's not at all. Oh, excuse me. And we see them already diving in. No, Blue able to close him out. They do pick off Oyo, but this is probably not enough left on the side of Mega to really stay in the fight, and they do indeed back off.
Very important first point, or first fight win rather, for ABANG. Mega noticing the defense of this kind of style that ABANG are going for. Apudo did hover over Sombra for a while to consider, maybe that's the answer. Now going on to the Pharah is a good way to break down the turret and immediately destroys Oyo's turret. Now it's going to be go time for Mega, and they should look for the entry. Yeah, Inzidana already on the backside, ready for that one. Doesn't quite close off on Oyo, but as it draws the team's attention away from the front, they do lose Narc rather. So Mega now established on the point. They've kind of broken the line, as it were. Yup does get picked though, so there's still a lot of breathing room here for Logitech ABANG, especially with a whole hog like that. The nano boost going. That is a nice way to rebuff the push. A lot of progress for Mega, but unfortunately not quite that second third. This is where the momentum for ABANG becomes a really important factor. They'd won the first fight, now they've got the second one. Now the armor should really start coming into play for Oyo, who is very close now to that molten core as well. We talked about the fact that one, playing the Sombra needs a bit of time for the EMP to be effective. Defensively, they have now the correct tools to get this defense further into motion.
It's a very conservative turret placement, but you can hear Oyo is moving that as we speak.
This could be a deadly hack.
One as well, yeah, nice, right into the back line, but the Transcendence out just in the nick of time from Yut. However, it is not enough to save his teammates from all of the damage coming out of the Molten Core. Apudo as well to good measure. But that was a very expensive fight for LogitechG ABANG. That's all the resources they just spent the last 2 fights building.
Exactly, and both Sombra and Torbjorn, for this matter, both their ultimates are kind of difficult-ish to build up. A little bit different for one playing Sombra. If he can find enough flanks to get the damage to charge up, that's a different story. But definitely for Oyo, you're not gonna see another Molten Core for all.
Yeah.
You'd like for ABANG to have won that last fight with one of the ultimates, but not both.
That being said, they should be able to get that nano boost whole hog combo that had won them the fight just previous to that. So still plenty of opportunities for them here. Mega, however, rotating into some very powerful ultimates of their own. Stick doesn't quite go out, but the pressure is remounted. And there is that ultimate. But as that happens, Apudo was able to open up, and the damage is there this time for Mega. They do have to commit a lot for it, but you do not mind when you get kills in those sorts of numbers. That will be the point cap for them, and they will be able to get that payload underway.
ABANG have sort of seen the writing on the wall as well. They understand it's all over for this one. Apudo likely to probably switch off, he does, onto the Widowmaker, just as Blue himself is on the Widowmaker. So kind of reading what kind of defense, again, that ABANG are perhaps likely wanting to run here in the Apudo versus Blue 1 versus 1 of the Widowmaker. Sniping matchup's going to be very definitive of who gets the early lead now.
I'm looking forward to this. I mean, oh! I was about to say, maybe I'm biased, but I would lean on the side of Apudo getting the better of these two. Well, there you have it. What a shot that was.
That is an opener indeed, and with that, Mega able to flood directly onto the screen.
I mean, I would call that a closer. I don't know about you.
Look at the cart right now. They're able to get it around the first band, coming up to the second band. This is starting to look like a spawn camp even. ABANG is still waiting for reinforcements. They're waiting for players to come back into the fray. Meanwhile, the cart's making its way around the third bend now. Players in position on high ground. ABANG got to find their footing.
Yeah, they're really just struggling to find a way in. They have really no resources to use to crack this one open as well, and Mega have plenty at their disposal. They can just kind of keep LogitechG ABANG kettled in this room off to the side, having to commit now the nano boost, but they don't mind that Naka's on the payload going aggressive because they've got the Transcendence to keep those members safe. The rest of the team is just pressuring the rest of LogitechG ABANG that couldn't follow up.
Easy.
Blue now just kind of stuck on the wrong side of this one, has to get in the thick of it, and yeah, easy cap indeed, because that's all that really matters is that the cap went through, and now ABANG gonna have to find a way to regroup.
You look at the setup that Mega had there as well. You had Loco running in deep with the Primal Rage, denying respawners to try and contest the cart as it was about to sort of pile on through. Now let's take a look at the replay. Apudo, sick headshot directly onto Blue. Gonna have to look for a new head this time around.
Okay, I mean, that's kind of horrific, but sure. Well, he changed
said it would unravel.
This is getting weirdly dark. At any rate, Mega now just looking to keep the momentum on their side, but Blue does get a good over. Apudo kind of shuts down one just as he was eyeing up a Dragon Blade, and off the back of that, they pick Smileable. They start putting the pressure, back on. Yeah, you need healing.
We have seen what one can do with this Dragon Blade though, so if LogitechG ABANG can sort of find their, and they're not going to at this rate because Apudo just continues to shut them down, continues to find targets, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. This looks desperate.
There he goes. This time one able to actually commit the Dragon Blade, but gets nothing for it once again. Apudo only needed a body shot because one was so low on health. Enzidanat does die again in this one, but I mean, it hasn't mattered. He's been the only one who's died. He's been keeping so many members of ABANG busy on the back line, and those that haven't been kept busy by them have been dove by Saiyajin God or headshotted out by Apudo. Mega, the momentum is very much on their side, just as we were talking about before the map. Now it's just a matter of closing it out.
We're going to see what kind of angles Apudo can still work with as the cart nears the end. Now one, still having just deflect and look at Apudo onto the side. Sound Barrier only going to keep them alive for a little bit longer. But where can they get these kills? Because that's what ABANG needs.
They do lose Yut here, Mega, and also losing Rocket means there may just be enough kills as they only lose Oyo, who had committed the Coalescence. It's a bit unfortunate, but they hold off the onslaught for now. And with only a minute left on the clock, it is still very possible for ABANG to stop this altogether.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing, because Mega did struggle so much on that A. This is the kind of time that ABANG have been able to buy themselves now onto cap number C, or rather letter C, if you will. And one coming up to yet another Dragon Blade. This one, however, has to be better than his last.
It's alright, we've all done that number C thing at some point. As it's going to be one, again committing a Dragon Blade 5.
That's what it looks like.
Gets some work done with it. Finds Loco as well. The can opener, you know, just slices them all to bits on the back line. That's what one has been looking for these last like 2 or 3 minutes. And speaking of, there is now very little time, really only one push left for Mega.
This is a dangerous moment for Mega to be in. They had a really great run through B. A great start to see. Apuro's kind of looking for the next hero. We've sort of seen this already. On A, he wasn't decisive about what he wanted to play. He hovered over to the McCree, kind of walked out the spawn, walked right back in, coming out now as a soldier.
Lou pressured back into the now. Nice follow-up. Now they can get aggressive. Not quite with impunity. Still a lot of resources here, but if they can pick a few key members. Oyo opening up with the Coalescence. There isn't the extra kills just yet for Mega. In fact, it is them losing members. Try to trade a few back, but you've got to consider those respawns. Yeah, into overtime now as we go. Mega, they're using the last few of their ults is what I mean to say. They do get some kills for it though, and now the members of ABANG all split up. The healers cannot catch all of them at once as they're slowly getting pressured out, but Mega still cannot lose too many members. Apudo though, able to sit back, staying relatively untouched, and will soon have a tactical visor. It could be that very ultimate that closes out the game as ABANG do get the respawns in. Rocket even onto the Doomfist, and yeah, you have it. That's going to be the ultimate that zones them off even as it doesn't get the kills, and they will just barely push it over the line there, Mega.
And when Apudo gets the angle he's looking for, when he has the sight lines, he rains bullets down range, and you can tell this because just a fresh life on Soldier immediately gets a tactical visor in that one life as we head into the overtime, and really critical clutch timing to have the right ultimates at the right time. Rocket, 6-man, Lucio sound barrier, dies, comes back as the Doomfist, straight back into the action. Incredibly impactful. These are the kind of timings that for Mega, when you start to run out of time, things start to get a little bit worrisome, but they're able to pull through.
Yeah, and I mean, that also shows the caliber of some of these players, especially Apudo. I mean, he's looked good on the Genji, he's looked good on the Widowmaker, he's looked good on the Soldier, and that's just this map.
And he looked at McCree and then put it away.
He's like, yeah, another time.
Well, we have known him to be a fairly decent
I'm looking forward to his McCree, eventually.
Saving that one.
Just want another reason to yell, whoa, Nelly.
Another
really,
reason to do that.
That's what I'm all about. I'm honestly, I'm just here to like use weird phrases. That's my shtick.
Yep. And I'll be right here to
saying things like
find the
golly gosh and gee willikers. That's all I got.
Just those three.
Without that, I'm nothing.
All right. Thanks for that.
Without that, I unravel. Wow, it is really late, isn't it?
So it is also time to kind of consider for Mega. That was an overtime cap. Not completely comfortable, and you got to go back to the A. A is where they struggled the most. Yes, they kind of struggled in the later half of C. B, they kind of blitzed through, but because they lost so much time on A, that's what kind of set them on the back foot, if you will, for the majority of that map. So a good start is very important here. LogitechG ABANG definitely looking for that good start.
Like in this movement as well, they're just avoiding so many potential sight lines and things like that. Makes it harder for Mega to know exactly what's coming, and now they know for sure it's coming in the form of fists and rocket hammers. Unfortunately though, it is ABANG losing the members in the form of Nark and Oyo, and the rest just kind of had to back right off one. He could have got out of there if he'd committed to just fully running away, but unfortunately did not, and ends up losing his life.
Huge cleanup coming out from Mega as well. Not running anything weird, no sort of tourbillons here, you know, nothing too far wide for this team. What we kind of said for Mega, do they try and make some huge adaptations? They're playing their game, they're sticking to their game, they know what they're good at, and they know how to win with it.
And once again, just trying to punch straight on through. Very aggressive maneuvering from the team. I do like it. This time though,
Lives.
Yut living is very big, and now getting the pick as well onto one. The Smileable having to try and dislodge Apudo. He does so, but they can't close out the kill, and now they're just losing members. Smileable is going to have to turn tail and run along with his co-tanks. This is that triple tank that ABANG said they enjoyed running. They've played it well, they're getting aggressive, but they're just not closing out the crucial early kills that they truly need.
And not only are they not doing that, but also Mega are not using ultimates to their own sort of benefit here, to the detriment of ABANG, who would like to now get some of these ultimates out, squeeze them out of Mega if they can. Mega about to hit number 6 very, very shortly.
Oh, right into the pulse bomb. Amazingly, no one dies to it. That could have been devastating for ABANG, but it does force out the sound barrier. That's a 1-for-1 you're happy to take when you're Mega and you have so many more resources available. Now it's just kind of a pitched fight on this double high ground as Apudo spreads the needle with the Helix rockets. Still holding on to the tac visor, and he'll hold it on until his dying day if he can. Nice Earth Shatter, but unfortunately just not enough follow-up. Too many members dying, and all of these ultimates getting committed out of Logitech ABANG. It's not ultimates they can really afford to use because Mega still walk away with more.
So let's say for ABANG as well, they have to consider whether they start changing compositions. They've used ultimates. Meteor Strike was used in there. Earth Shatter came out as well. A lot of things impacting the ground, but unfortunately not collecting the kills off that. Mega seem to be shockproof right now, and they're showing how it's done.
NZ are now looking for another pulse bomb. This time to some more success, but there's no targets because they're all dead. And once again, Logitech ABANG having committed ultimates, this time the Coalescence. And they're just not getting anything done, nor are they really getting ahead in the macro game.
Mega had to use a couple ultimates in the previous fight, but now they're getting those back so quickly. Look at this macro. You sort of already mentioned it, Ultimate Economy. That's what's been really good for Mega so far. 1 minute 05, ABANG is still looking for an entry, and they're probably going to have to reset now.
That is a happy 1-for-1 because again, you're right, they maybe have to reset, and it's such a cheap one for Mega. Still all those ultimates in the back pocket. I mean, I know we keep going back to it, but the lead is just so immense for this Mega squad right now.
Mega would have to completely misuse and misfire these ultimates to not get ahead. This is a little bit too long of a chase, and while that was happening, I would have liked to see ABANG try and connect a couple of dives on while Blue was buying them time, but now it's going to be a 5v6.
They're certainly going to try, but they do dive straight into Yut's Transcendence. Saputo opening up with the Tactical Visor. This may have been a bit of a bait out by ABANG, but no, unfortunately they didn't back off at the right time. They end up just in the kill box. And now with 2 few members left, not enough time to back off and reset. It is looking very much like, despite only getting it over the line in overtime themselves, Mega will full hold. Maybe not. One could still come in and do something amazing, but
6v5 is workable, so don't count out ABANG just yet. But they do need to execute what they do have.
Sound barrier out, the Coalescence is there, but once again, it doesn't seem to pull much weight for them as they do lose 1 here. ABANG throwing out what they can, but it's not quite enough, at least not just yet. Apudo staying alive, running in circles to get away from Narc, and he does get away with his life, even catching some kills onto Blue. Mega, they've only got a few members left, but it may be just enough between Saiyajin God and NZNR. It's only Narc and 1 really left on this point. The respawns are relatively close, but NZNR, he is not ever done, and no one left on the point. Unfortunately, it will be Mega getting the full hold. Even though it was tough right at the end, it is still a big difference to go from just barely capping out and then fully holding.
And this is kind of the Mega that we had maybe thought about, considered, contemplated about earlier. I do want to highlight this play as well because this was sort of that rocket barrage that was so high up in the air that ABANG struggled, or, you know, as you can see, couldn't really deal with it. They didn't have anything against Apudo at that stage in the game, as was kind of previously mentioned by me before we head into Hollywood as well, though. I kind of mentioned this could be a map of Hollywood where both teams could go to fully finishing the map. We'll see in overtime, or both teams are great at defense and they're going to get a full hold. I didn't think Mega was going to be both.
It's funny, isn't it? And we were talking about the potential closeness as well. A part of me does feel like we are only a couple of fights away from, you know, Mega not finishing that, or even Mega not actually completing the cap, or alternatively, ABANG getting the cap and getting underway, at which point, you know, all bets are off. Who knows how far they'll get. It's one of those weird things. Like, it feels weird to say, yeah, this team pushed it all the way to the end and then full held the other team, but it was a close game. But it kind of was a close game. In a way, like I say, only a couple of fights difference, right? But you do also have to consider the other side of that, which is something we do go back to quite a lot, in being, of those fights, it was Mega winning those crucial ones. You know, you could say, well, it was only a few fights away from going the other way, but it didn't happen that way. Every time a fight needed to be won, it was Mega winning it.
And this is also the case where, for a team like Mega as well,